part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Chase Smith, founder and CEO of Press Play Podcast. You may have heard me on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast with Jeremy Powell, now wonderfully hosted by Holly Wetzel, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Sam Amico, or my own podcast, the Chase Smith Podcast. I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about a brand new subscription-based podcast we're offering this football season, the Press Play Sports Podcast. This premium podcast feed will send all of the sports podcasts offered on the Press Play Podcast Network to one central feed. Yes, you can still follow and subscribe to all of our individual shows for free on every podcast platform. But if you wanted to consolidate your podcast feed and listen to them all in one location, the Press Play Sports Podcast is for you. I'm talking the Oranges and Oranger Browns podcast with Holly Wetzel and Jeremy Powell, Red Guy and Rhoda, Sable Brothers on the Baseline, Cavs on the Break, the Dennis Maniloff Show, the Ball Card Show, the Premium Fantasy Podcast, a Swing in a Tribe MLB podcast, and the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast, all in one feed. All 9 of our sports shows curated into one single podcast feed. Out the door, you're looking at $5.36 a month after tax. That's $5.36, just about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. And this is only offered on Apple Podcasts. You can't get this anywhere else. It's an Apple Podcast exclusive. Just go to the search bar and search Press Play Sports. It'll come up and you can subscribe from there. We're excited to offer this consolidated, curated sports feed for you to enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for listening and your support.
This episode of the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Align Health Center. Align Health Center is the first chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio. The team at Align Health Center helps patients with back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and much more. And along with chiropractic biophysics, Align Health Center is also the leading clinic in regenerative medicine, also known as stem cell injections. And listen, you don't have to be an NFL player to get it done or have this treatment. If you have low back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, or arthritis, check out the Regenerative Medicine Clinic at Aligned Health Center. Come in for a free consultation, complete with imaging and x-rays to see how Aligned Health Center can help you. No multiple shots are needed, and it's complete with physical therapy built into the process, so there's no downtime. And look, it gets even better. Align Health Center doesn't charge people for x-rays or exams, and they don't bill you later. They let you know right away the cost. They're upfront and transparent. They are number one for a reason. Call Align Health Center today at 440-385-7357 or visit their website at alignedhealthcenters.com to make an appointment and to learn more about how Align Health Center can help you. Again, that's 440-385-7357 or visit alignedhealthcenters.com.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribb! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They blocked the kick!
All right, welcome everyone to the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast. I'm Holly Wetzel, joined by friend and Browns insider, Mr. Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Oh, just couldn't be better. You know?
I know you were at the game as well, weren't you?
I was. Of all the games
so
for me to go
fun.
to, it was a necessary for me, and it was I was in a suite, so I can't complain. Like, who am I? But the walk there and back was rather brutal. I mean, but football weather was weird, weirdly gritty, and I'm like, oh, this isn't too bad, you know? I mean, it was it's football weather.
It's funny. I actually think we had those 3 games in a row last year. Remember? I think it was the Texans, the
really
Bears,
bad weather.
and the Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All 3 of them were worse than yesterday. So yesterday it wasn't that bad. I actually find it hard to believe that it really affected the players all that much. You know, there was some drizzle. The wind wasn't bad at all.
It wasn't, no.
There was some slight wind, but could have been a lot worse than that, I think. I mean, the play on the field was worse than the weather. I'd say. Is that a hot take?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the play on the field was worse than the weather.
Is it? So let's start.
Let's go.
Jeremy, I feel like again, it was another week where I'm like, okay, I don't want to start this. And I've been listening to some local radio and reading different articles and just kind of getting to feel after what happened last week, Baker's press conference, him not showing up, the whole thing. And I thought, the one thing I'm going to try and stress, and even for myself, and I think for everyone, is just to relax. I think everyone just needs to take a chill, Baker included, myself, all Browns fans to just relax here for a second, because, and I know that's a lot easier said than done because we don't know what that's like and we panic, but I will say, and also because, we're in a society where you must pick a side on everything. And we've talked about that before. And there's no middle of the road or seeing both sides in points. It's one extreme or the other. And the middle ground opinion has become basically obsolete. And yet the far end of each argument is the most centralized because of the effects of it. So, and of course, professional football is not removed from that. So, and we are on this ridiculous roller coaster of, is Baker Mayfield the one? Does he have it? And instead of sitting down and considering everything that factors into being the best QB in the league, hearing both sides, looking at stats, looking at his health, physically, mentally, we can say, you know what? We still don't know. And we still don't know if he deserves that big contract. We don't. We're confident in what we saw last year at the end of 2018, his rookie year, the glimmers of hope that we've seen before the injuries and despite them, basically. And the reality, too, is that we may not find out until maybe the end of the season, maybe not till next year. Is it ideal? No. Are we allowed to be angry? Yes, of course. Are we allowed to criticize? Yes, we are. We're allowed to probably boo once in a while. Yes, we are. And I believe, Jeremy, most are in our camp of where you and I fall on this, of that middle ground. We just hear both ends because they're so ridiculous, and that's what gets sensationalized. But now what's concerning to me, though, is where there's smoke, there's fire when it comes to Baker and the Browns relationship. And this whole Baker saga has been bubbling for a while, but then look what happened with OBJ. We heard rumors, we heard the media were making up headlines and all this shit, and that it's not true, and then shit hit the fan. So, but Baker, I think, took an extra step this week, and so did his wife, quite frankly. He pit himself against one of the most loyal fan bases in this league, saying that you don't care, dodging your duties to speak to the media after the game, leaving the field before the game ends, basically pouting, like going to your room as a kid and slamming the door. Yeah. Like it's immaturity. It's disrespectful to your team, the fans, the organization, and you won. You won, and you still acted that way. And if he was having any mental issues or he was physically hurt or whatever it was, we understand that. But he didn't shake hands after the game. He ran off the field. He took his helmet off. He put his beanie on, and he left. He did zero favors by skipping that and railroading the press conference the next day. The poor Tom Withers, who was just asking a very, very solid question of, you hold yourself accountable. You didn't come to do your press conference afterwards. And he pushed that pedal full speed over the fan base and the media, they're all there to do their jobs like he is. The media doesn't work for the Browns or Baker. They work for their respective companies. They have a job to do as he does. They show up. And do you think they actually want to ask those questions? No, they don't want that. And you don't want the media on your bad side. So all of this, Jeremy, summing up here, all the things we love about him, again, are the things we hate about him. And sooner or later, I'm afraid that the latter is taking over. And as much as I'm trying to force myself to relax and be patient, let each week play out, it is incredibly hard after this weekend. And how can I not question what's going on with him and the Browns? And the iceberg is far enough away to dodge, but we are inching closer to it. So after my rant, where are we at? Because Jason Lloyd, again, I'm going to quote one of his articles this week. He said, that's where we're at with this Brown season. Not even the wins can be fully celebrated.
Yeah. And you nailed it. I was going to say the things we love about Baker, also things we hate about Baker. And that was exactly it. That was kind of his rogue thing after the game, not to talk to the media. Here's the thing that bothered me the most about it. Not just that he didn't go to his media availability, not that he didn't shake hands. It's that it seemed like he resented the fact that they were chanting for Chubb and booing him. Right. It seems like that really bothered him, that, Chubb was getting the love from the fans and he was getting booed. And you know what he should have done? He should have just went to the press conference and look, I played like shit. Thank goodness Nick Chubb bailed me out. And then he looks like the leader. That's what he looks like. It does not look, I don't care what he says. And, I thought he acted like an ass in the press conference too, like 3 different times on questions. He's like, oh no, yes. I didn't dodge, response. My accountabilities to my teammates. No, that's not true. That's not all your accountabilities to. You should have went to the press conference, said that, owned it, and left, and this would be over right now. He wouldn't even be talking about it.
100%.
That's what he should have. But then again, now we have another stupid little thing we have to talk about, another stupid little distraction for the team. yeah, the victory sucked, but you know what? I like ugly wins. Muck it up, get ugly. That's what we do well. We're ugly. We run the ball well. We do stuff like that well. Winning an ugly game is fine, but he made it really ugly by the way he acted, and it's just got to stop. I don't know if it's got the pressure, and then him. Have you ever seen anybody that has rabbit ears more than him and Emily? My goodness, every little thing. And for her, I know she just shared that post. But the last line of that post saying that all the rest of the team needs to be as tough as Baker, it's like, give me a break. And you know what?
Right.
We might think it's me and you looking at that as, got people in our 30s and 40s. It's like, no big deal. But when you got 24, 25-year-old kids that he plays with saying, what? Baker's saying I'm not tough. His wife's saying I'm not tough. You could easily see how that could explode in the locker room. Her just
how do you not read
that.
what you're going to repost?
Right.
Yeah. How do you not read what you're going to post?
That was the thing. I saw some people defending her saying, "Oh, she just reposts everything someone tags her." No, that I don't buy that for a second. It was dumb. And like you said, there's got to be who knows what's going on behind the scenes over there. Did you see Baker at all in Stefanski's post game videos they shared? I didn't see Baker in there. I didn't see Baker when they were talking about
which was such a weird release number. Too.
Yeah, that was almost like, oh, look, everything's fine in the locker room. Let us release these videos, right?
Right.
And with employee 24, which I do like the employee 24 thing. That's cool. And then even today, there's only, generally it seems like there's more Browns at that event. I think there was Chubb and Hunt. And, have you ever been to it?
No, I was supposed to go today, actually. And COVID just ruining lives every day.
So, but it was only a handful of them there. I don't know if that has to do with Baker or not. Who knows? But it's just
a lot of the players too were over at I believe the Greater Cleveland Food Bank.
Oh, okay.
Today too. I think that was today.
So yeah,
so they might have been
course,
split duties.
And of course, we commend Baker on all he does for the community. No one's questioning any of that. Like we've talked about before, no one's questioning that he's tough. We all know that he's tough. We all know, the qualities that Baker possesses that we all love. But at some point, it's just he's got to grow up a little bit, and he's got to get it done on the field. This can't continue. Look, I mean, you can't blame, like we've talked about ad nauseum for 5 weeks now. Can't blame the injuries. I heard a couple people today, maybe even Rizzo, saying you got to take into account the injuries. No, I don't think you do. And at this point, you don't. That the ball he airmailed to Jarvis and Jarvis was wide open. That's just a bad throw. And if that throw was caused by his shoulder being hurt, then he should not be in the game. Period. Right. And I don't know if it's Kevin Stefanski. I don't know if it's Andrew Berry. I don't know if it's Jimmy Haslam. I don't know if it's the medical staff. But at some point, it can't be up to Baker. Somebody has to step in and say, look, I just don't buy that Baker at 75% is better than Case Keenum at 100%. I don't buy it. Are you trying?
Not for the Detroit Lions game with the backup quarterback.
I even heard maybe a couple beat reporter guys. Well, it's got to be about the contract. It's not even. I don't believe it's about the contract. I don't believe it's about the money. Baker's already made enough money for 2 lifetimes. It's just. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why you trot him out there when you have the Ravens game coming up this week, then a bye. Let him sit, get a couple weeks off, play the Ravens game, then get another week off.
100%.
I don't get it. I don't get it
either. And that's I'm glad you went to the injury because I wanted to go to that next because the question is an injured Baker better than a healthy Case? And it's $1 million question, Jeremy, literally. And I can see that in certain games or situations, it may make sense, but it made none, like we talked about on Sunday, with shitty weather and a shitty Lions team. And Baker looked awful. And you can't tell me that Baker hurt like this is the best way to win. I can't wrap my head around an injured $1 million man. Is the risk really worth the reward here? That's what they have to be asking themselves. And I don't know how it can be. He finished 15 of 29 for 176 yards, a touchdown and 2 terrible receptions. And we went scoreless in the second half. We nearly blew it. I mean, we are lucky we won that game. And I know that's why he was pissed, and he should be pissed. And I totally understand that. But his anger and resentment is being positioned and almost projected on the fans, all the people that are in his ear, not maybe literally in his ear, but all of the national hosts, everyone. I mean, he took this opportunity to what he did that with the press conference is what I'm getting to. It was so unprofessional. And, then I think to myself, okay, back to the injuries. What was the Cincinnati game? What was that? Because he played great.
Right.
They scored 41 points.
So is he more hurt now?
But that's when I don't think so. There hasn't been anything that came out that he hurt himself. What he hurt is possible, like, was his toe or his foot or something, or his knee?
He's got a heel, he's got a knee, he's got all this stuff going on. So it brings it, it's all full circle. It's full circle though. It's back to if you're injured enough for it to be an excuse, you shouldn't be playing with a $6 million backup quarterback, the second highest paid backup quarterback in the league, should be playing if you're so hurt that it's affecting your play. Period. I don't understand. And I heard Rizzo Rizzo talking about this today. Said he's covered teams where the GMs made the decisions, covered teams where the owners made. Well, I want to know. And I know that I don't know if you. I think Grossi. Grossi asked Stefanski about it, and it was a one-word answer. So you could tell he was pissed. He didn't want, It actually what Grossi asked him was, did you ever think about pulling him from the game? And all he said was no. And that was it. But I just want someone to ask him straight up, who makes the decision? I'm sure he'll talk for 30 seconds without saying anything. He'll talk about the medical staff, and he'll talk about an organizational decision and how everybody weighs in and all that stuff. But if they're leaving it up to Baker, like Baker has made it sound a couple times, that's just, to me, that's dysfunction. So I don't know.
Yeah, and he's 100%. And he said today too. He said, "I do expect to be in better condition than I have in previous weeks." And I literally had to read that like a couple of times. Like, Baker said that? No, there's no way.
So how does he expect that? Like, what's going on?
How? Right. So it's a weird, like, there's so many ways you can look at this. You can look at it as, is Baker basically pushing them that he wants to play and he's fine, and Stefanski's trying to, be respectful of the fact that, yes, he's the quarterback and he's trusts him and whatever, that he's going to try and go out and win the game. Right. The Cincinnati game was a little bit of a bright spot, but then you see this, or is it Stefanski's going to keep letting him play and play like shit and then see where we end up at this year. And that's when I to go back to when I was saying we need to relax, because I do think that a lot of these things are going to play out. And I am so guilty myself of kind of jumping to conclusions. But in as much I want to continue to tell myself to be patient with all this, it's hard when Baker's not doing himself any favors throughout the entire thing. And again, it makes me nervous that there's possible turmoil. Skip Bayless was talking today about how he has someone in Brown's organization that he's very close with, that they would be ready to move on from him. I don't know what's true.
Well, look, and
that's a national show.
And Mary Kay's article this week, where that maybe Baker doesn't want to be here. I mean, somebody had to put a birdie in her ear, right? She didn't just make that up out of thin air. And it goes all the way back. This is funny because I don't know if we talked about it on here. Maybe we have, when we had Hugh Jackson on after last season. And he straight told us on there that he didn't think this is the right offense for Baker, that he wouldn't thrive in it, that Baker needs to be spread it out and pistol or shotgun every play and wing it around and all that stuff. And we laughed at him and said, sour grapes, haha. Maybe he's right. And maybe Baker knows that the offense isn't right for him. Maybe Baker does want to get out. And maybe it's mutual, the contractual stuff. Why we've never heard anything is maybe there is some mutual dissatisfaction going on right now. So maybe we will move on. But we got to see. Look, the Browns now, I don't know if you saw today, they moved that Raiders game to national TV. It's going to be a Saturday game at 4:30. This is great. 4 of the last 6 Browns games are on national TV. Okay, 4 of the last 6 games are on national TV. So you know why, don't you now? They added that one because it's going to be great for a TV either way. We're going to crash and burn, and it's going to be an absolute dumpster fire, which people love to watch. Or we will go on a run, and it'll take us into the playoffs, right? Either way, It's compelling TV. The Browns are, as always, as we talk about forever, somehow the Browns always end up in the limelight, whether good or bad. Because it's like that dysfunctional dumpster fire that everyone wants to watch, or it's the comeback story from the dysfunctional dumpster fire, which people also like to watch. So we're like must-see TV no matter what. So when I saw today that they made that a national game, I was like, I'm not even surprised, because it's one of those two is going to happen. It's either going to be this whole thing that was supposed to be the super team that everyone said before the year had the best roster in the game and the most talented roster, and they're falling apart, or we come back from it. So either way, it's going to be interesting, but it's just so funny how we never get out of the, I mean, you don't hear shit about the Jaguars, generally, or all these other teams that are like middling teams that just aren't that good. You don't hear anything about them. Browns are always front and center. It's crazy.
Always. Well, and like you said, he's a polarizing figure. And
no doubt,
at the end of the day, we he has the most important position on the field.
The most important position in sport. And it's funny. I don't know if you saw, I posted about it yesterday, Holly. I said, I was watching that game last night and saw how horrible Danny Dimes is, right? I mean, Daniel Jones, just awful quarterback play. Eli was like this. I watched the Manning cast, which was so phenomenal. I cannot get enough of the Monday night Manning cast. It's so good.
I'm with you.
It's so good. And he was so disgusted by his quarterback play. But the thought came to my mind, isn't it incredible that in a country of 350 million people, we can't find 30 guys that can play the position of quarterback? All these people, we can't find 30 individuals that can play a competent quarterback at a consistent level. That just tells you how incredibly tough it is to play quarterback in the NFL when there's only 13 or 14 guys that do it and do it well. And that's why you see guys like Brady playing until they're 44 and Rodgers playing until they're 38, because when you find someone that can do it, you better hang on to them, because they just don't exist. So that's that.
Right,
and we can take that all the way back around and say, well, if Baker can play, we better not let him go, because we may not find anybody else that can play for the next decade. So,
well, that's what's really hard. And I think that's why when I say, let's just be patient, because I do think it's going to play out the way that it should. And there's no reason to be jumping to conclusions on a lot of things. There's always going to be rumblings, and it's okay. Of course, why wouldn't there be rumblings and issues, Jeremy? They're 6-5, barely won last week.
Yeah.
Landry's dropping hints at his charity games that he doesn't get the ball enough.
Yeah.
OBJ drama, all of this stuff, that's all real, but it's not normal, but it's not common, but it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
This is what happens. And especially the better you are, the more heat you get.
Yeah.
And people are passionate about him and what he does, because he's a passionate person himself.
Right.
And on top of that, people care. When they stop showing up and stop getting angry about stuff is when you really have to start worrying and being like, you know what, it's a battle that he is never going to win, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to understand at this point, 4 years in, that this is what comes with the job. It doesn't always make it right. It doesn't always make it the most smooth, but this is what comes with the job. He has to be able to handle it, mentally handle it. And if he can't, he needs to figure out a way to do that. Doing your job, and that is 100% trying to be accountable and doing your job. And if he has a problem or whatever it is, then he needs to get the help. He has the most resources on this planet to help him get through whatever he needs to get through. And if he get out of his own way, he's going to end up hurting himself big time. We're going to be screwed. It's the egg is starting to crack a little bit, and I don't want it to crack completely, but we're on that path. But I do think that if it does, that is what's supposed to happen. I do think it's going to play out the way that it really should. And I think you and I represent the middle ground of what most people think.
Well, if you look at this rationally, like we're just saying, so there's not who are you going to get out there unless outside of luring in Aaron Rodgers for a 3-year run or trading for Russ? I mean, he's going to be the quarterback next year. There's no one in this draft. This draft is not a quarterback heavy draft, even at the very top. You're not going to get anybody in this draft that is going to be a franchise changer. Unless you can, like you said, outside of Russ and Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson, who knows what his status is. I mean, outside of those guys, there's nobody else. There's nobody else that can play. So he's probably going to be your quarterback again next year. I'm sure they'll find a way to mend it and get him, and even if they're just using each other for 1 year for him to try to get the contract or to find his next job, either way, he's probably going to be the quarterback. So I guess the best thing is ride it out, see how he plays, and hopefully he stays healthy next year and everything stays right around him and we win. But it's so much more complicated and more nuanced than we tend to make it out to be as fans, right? I mean, there's so much more that goes into this whole discussion than that. But you're stuff.
And why can't it just be that he's hurt? We got to play case for a couple of weeks, and we may not make the playoffs this year.
Look, and if we had won that game,
get his surgery that he needs to, and we can come back again strong next year. Why can't it just be that? Why can't it? Why does it have to be Baker playing hurt, proving whatever the hell he thinks he needs to prove, causing all these issues internally? Now our season's going to be up in flames because we don't know who to blame. And it's Why? Why can't it just be that he got hurt, he shouldn't play, Case tried to carry us, he couldn't do the job because he is a backup quarterback, and we got to go back to the drawing board next year and assess.
That and you could even break that down just to this week. If they just would have played Case Keenum this week and we would have won this exact same game, we'd be so much more enthusiastic about this game coming up, because we said, well, Baker didn't play, you got a chance to get healthy, we still got the win, all these things. So, even if we just break it down to like the micro there, it just seems like it made so much more sense to play Case Keenum this week. But yeah, going forward, I mean, we'll see. And then who knows, which Baker, we've talked about it before. One thing, when his back's all the way against the wall, he does seem to play better. And we're on, we're on national TV this week. The Browns have actually played pretty well on national TV, the primetime games. So who knows? Maybe we go out there and we probably have Kareem Hunt back. Actually, it sounded to me like Kareem Hunt is playing. Kareem, I saw Kareem. Mary Kay interviewed Kareem today down at the town hall at the, what was it called? What was the event called? I can't remember.
Feed the Need.
Yes, Feed the Need. And you can tell that boy, he's ready to play some football. He 100% wants to play. I think he'll play, and there's a good chance Jack Conklin's back. So offense could be at as close to full strength as we're going to get this week. So kind of the last stand, see what happens.
Yep. All right. Well, let's take a break after this long segment. Sorry, Eli, to our producer.
Minutes,
I don't know.
That was long.
So we'll take a break. I tried to take a break earlier, but I was already fired up too. And
people like
we'll go to Baltimore. We'll be right back.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary.
And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
This is Mike Voorhees, co-host of the Swingin' a Tribe MLB podcast. If you love Cleveland Indians baseball, then this is the pod for you. We've got you covered each week as we talk about all the games, breaking news, trades, the roster, all things Tribe. You're going to love it. Go Tribe.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
and me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next.
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, we are back on the Oranges Orange Cleveland Browns podcast. I'm Holly Wetzel, joined, of course, with Mr. Jeremy Powell. We just went on our long Baker rant of where the latest episode and the days of our lives of Baker Mayfield and the Browns. So let's look to Baltimore. Jeremy already gave me a nice teaser. Baltimore, Sunday night. Yes, national television. Big game for us. I feel like we keep saying that every week. But this one really is a huge one for us. And I am nervous, and I have already now betrayed my relaxed thing because I am not relaxed about Sunday. And we came out against Detroit with a prayer. And, I don't want to give up hope. And I'm pumped about, Hunt and Conklin pretty much probably coming back. Man, did we miss Kareem. And JOK will be back too. I know he got hurt in the Detroit game, but
and here's some breaking news for you too. I was checking the two deep. He actually is now listed as the starter on the depth chart, which he hadn't been. Mac Wilson had been the starter, so he is listed in front of Mac Wilson at the depth chart that was released today. So
I'm not mad about that.
I know a lot of times they say, "Oh, that's just filled out." Nah, I think it is. I think that there's something to it. I think that they're, saying, "Look, he's the starter now." That's what it is. So
Mac hasn't been trying to do anything to keep his job.
No. Mac has been, and I don't want to say a disappointment, but he's just a guy, right? What's the thing? He's a Jag, just a guy. That's just kind of what he is. So and this is a week you can't use the injuries as an excuse because there is nobody in the NFL that has been through more than the Ravens have this year. I mean, it is. When you go through their depth chart and roster, it is absolutely incredible. I mean, they won this week with Tyler Huntley. Did you see that coming? Tyler Huntley on the road going down on
I was so pissed.
After Dalton threw that, you probably did the same as me. I checked the score. Remember, they showed it up on the big board. They showed Andy Dalton hitting the 4th down 50-yard touchdown. Rashard Higgins was actually down on the field fist pumping, with 1:30 left.
Right.
And then Tyler Huntley takes them right down the field and they score with 20 seconds left because the Ravens, that's just what the Ravens do. They beat bad teams in close games.
Right? That's good teams.
It's a culture thing. I think I posted that too. It's like I actually posted this and then I deleted it when the Steelers lost, when they ended up losing the game. I posted that the Ravens and the Steelers win so many games that look lucky and they have no business winning. The Browns lose so many games they have no business losing, and the difference is the winning culture, right? It's a culture thing. They just know how to win. We're not quite there yet. We had 1 year. It takes a few years to build something like that. But it's just like this. Right. The Ravens, there's been at least 3 games this year that they had absolutely no business winning that they won, and that because they know how to win. But to win that game with no Lamar Jackson, no Marquise Brown, Devin Duvernay, and all these guys playing the skill positions that you've never even heard of. I mean, Lamar Jackson's 85% of their offense. He literally is by far the largest percentage of a team's offense of anybody in the league, and they win without it on the road in the NFL. I mean,
and that's any given Sunday, right? That's any given Sunday, which I
but
totally
this is
get. So who knows?
No,
Browns might blow them out.
More
Thursday.
than any given Sunday. This is more than that win was more than any given Sunday. That one's more than next man up. When you have a quarterback who's never started a game in the NFL, replacing a guy who's 85% of his, and you still win the game with a defense that's beat the shit. It's uncanny. And I hate John Harbaugh. Nobody whines more on the sideline than him. It's like, get his face out of here. He is the biggest whiner.
Agreed.
He rides the refs more than anybody in the league. But man, he must be one hell of a coach. And you can tell his players all respect him and love him. I've never heard a negative thing come out of there about him. And they just find ways to win games. They're never horrible. Just every year you think that's going to be the year that they're horrible. They're just never horrible.
And they're not. I know. And I know the Browns, look, the Browns are on their way for that. And I think that, again, there's so much. I go back to, I just think, why can't that just be what it is? And we can't keep trying to build on what we have. And they're signing guys here slowly, which is great. I think it's a perfect plan because at the end of the day, when it comes to Baker, we'll know where we stand with him, and he's either going to take what we give him if we do, or he's not, and he's going to move on. And I don't want him gone. Because I criticize him, people just assume, they're like, why do you this guy asked me 3 different times, like, why do you answer me why you hate Baker? I was like, I don't hate Baker. When did I ever say I hate him? I don't hate him. I don't like what he does sometimes. I don't like the way that he acts sometimes. I would hate to be married to him. Sorry, I would. Because he would probably want to win every argument. And guess what?
It's not how it works all the time.
Exactly. So happy wife, happy life, right?
I have adopted the philosophy that it's easy, apologize. Just apologize. Even if you don't know you're right. Hey, it's my fault. My bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, also,
sometimes as a leader, you have to do that. Though sometimes as a leader, even as of a marriage or an organization, there have to be times where you have to accept blame for something that may not be your fault for things to go well.
In that role, he has to.
Exactly. He could have just, like we talked about earlier, just step up and say, you know what? That's on me. That one's on me. That one's on me, and move on. So,
and Stefanski at least does that. We may make fun of him on that front, but he does at least say every week, I got to be better. I got to be better.
He's
but
a
that's
cliche
a leader.
king.
Yes.
Yeah, it is though. You're right. It is.
But it's a leader. It's a leader mentality, and I'm not saying that Baker isn't a leader and a force in that locker room and on the field and everything, but that pouty type action is just not. It's not good here. And it just sets the wrong message across the board, and it keeps flames to the fire of all these rumors. So, hey, Baker needs to relax too. We all need to relax a little bit. Let's see how this season plays out. Sunday night is yet another big one. And maybe we'll see him break out, but we are going to have to have a come to Jesus moment on where he stands.
At least we can send out the bat signal
with his injury
this weekend, because as Baker has always played well against the Bengals, Nick Chubb, some of his best games of his career come against the Ravens. So then there's another, we're trying to find these silver linings every week before we go into some of these games, and where can we hang our hope or our hats or whatever this week. And I think we can hang it on the fact that Nick Chubb, and he'll probably have his sidekick back, and Nick Chubb has had some incredible games against the Ravens. So maybe that, and like we said, neither of us expected us to go into Cincinnati and beat down Cincinnati, right? None of us expected that to happen.
Not like that.
And then, of course, we lose Nick Chubb going into the Patriots game, get smoked by the Patriots, come back, win a close one. So who knows? Like you said, and it's back to and that's the one line that Kevin Stefanski uses all the time that I love is, it's not a marathon, it's 17 sprints, because each week takes on, each game is its own thing, unique individual entity. And so, and like I started to talk about at the beginning, the Ravens, if you look right now, their depth chart is covered in red. We won't know for a couple of days yet who all's playing and who's not. But I mean, Calais Campbell's beat up, Brandon Williams is beat up, Marquise Brown, Lamar Jackson. I mean, they are a beaten up football team. So, and they're one of the worst defenses in the league currently, which is funny to say about the Ravens, but partially a lot of it's because they're so beat up. And so who knows? I tell you right now, we can go in there and run the ball on them. We can definitely go in and run the ball and move.
Well, we all know that, but will we stick to it?
It doesn't matter.
Is it a big question?
And I heard some people that I have respect for, that I like, Gerard Cherry, that I know no ball, saying stuff about, and even Nathan Zagura. Well, teams are stacking 8 and 9 in the box, and we're still averaging 6 yards a carry. What does that tell you? Yes, I watched. I was up to the game with my dad. We counted. The Lions are playing 8 and 9 in the box all the time, and and Nick Chubb still averaged 6 yards a carry. I mean, what does that say? And I know the Browns run it as much as anybody, but doesn't it still feel like there's more yards to get on the ground in those games?
Well, we abandon it so quickly.
And Nathan Zagura will be the first one, because he's sort of like Baghdad Bob for the Browns. And I love Nathan. He's been on 3 times, but he will always find a positive spin, and he will point out that the Browns already run the ball as much as anybody in the league. But when they're doing it that well, when you're getting 6 yards a carry, you throw Dearness Johnson and he's getting 5 yards a carry. When you run it that well, maybe it's time to just think about, I don't know. Obviously, Stefanski's forgotten more football than I will ever know. But the fact that it's so uncanny, their ability to run the ball. And you see Wyatt Teller tossing guys around like rag dolls all over, and Joel Bitonio. And it's like when personnel meets scheme with that running game and meets coaching. It's just, I try to explain like my son is like, how are the Browns so good? I mean, these guys are pros and excellent too. How are they so good at it? It's scheme plus players plus coaching equals effectiveness. And then just right now, the Browns, especially with the run game, have the perfect mix of, linemen, running back, coach with Bill Callahan, that it just has all came together in a magical kind of way. And how do you know how far to ride that? How, you know what I mean? I know you have to throw the ball, but I don't know. Big, long discussion for another day, but
yeah. Yes. Well, and that day will come next week, Jeremy. So we'll be talking about it next week.
I would just hope the Browns run it all over him. That'd be
what's
so
your
prediction?
What's your prediction? I need your prediction.
I think the Browns, it's so tough because of the not knowing yet who all's playing and who all's not, and this weird illness that Lamar Jackson that's apparently not COVID, but is making him so sick he can barely walk. So I guess a lot of factors go into it. I'm going to say the Browns are going to pull it. I'm going to say that they're going to shock the world. They're going to come out on Sunday night. They're going to run it all over, and Baker's going to make just enough plays. I'm going to say Browns 28, Ravens 24, and we push it along for one more week. We get the bye, and then we get to see the Ravens again at home and see what happens in this little. And Stefanski in his weird little locker room post game sequence of the Browns throughout, he did say, his message obviously was that we have a 2-game series with the division champs. So that's what he's preaching to the team, that, this is our shot right here, these 2 games. So I like that. I like the sense of urgency with it.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we need it.
Yep.
All hands on deck here. So, yeah, I'm going to say I am not as optimistic as you with our play against the Ravens and not being able to beat them. When is the last time we beat the Ravens, by the way?
We beat them there. Let's see. 3 years ago was the game when Nick Chubb had the monster game with the 3 touchdowns. We blew them out there.
Okay.
And then last year
we never beat him with Baker.
No, Baker did beat him. Baker beat them.
Baker did beat them? Oh, was that in 18? Oh, in 18.
Okay. That was the 3 touchdown. That was Freddie. That was with Freddie. It was there. It was the beginning of early in the season road game. Nick Chubb had like 170 yards rushing at that 75-yarder to seal it. It was 3 touchdown day for him, and we blew him out. I think it was 41-24 was the final. And and then last year, obviously the home game, which was an epic, that was an amazing game. Baker played, his ass off that game.
Yeah.
And if it was like a one play call. Kevin Stefanski said it was actually on him. There was a play call where he threw that pick. If he wouldn't have thrown that pick, and then obviously Lamar comes running out of the bathroom.
Oh my God, that was the most wild thing.
My wife was watching at home. I was at the game. My wife was watching it. I was like, it was the craziest thing to watch, man. He just comes running out of the bathroom and doing the
and wins. It's nuts. It's nuts. You can't even make that up.
And literally, remember, he came out on 3rd down. He came back. Remember, they would have been over. Like, McSorley tore his knee up. McSorley tore his knee up. He comes running out right as McSorley tears his knee up on 3rd down. No, 4th and 5. 4th and 5. He gets Hollywood Brown on that. He's rolling to the right, and Hollywood Brown's wide open in the middle of the field for the 50-yard touchdown.
If they're down, if it's close and we're barely up, Jeremy, I just don't think we're going to get it done. I just don't trust Lamar Jackson in the final minute or so. So I'm going to say I'm bleak. I'm going to say 21-10 Ravens. And like we say every week, hope I'm wrong. So,
yep.
All right. Well, we shall see.
You probably picked with your head, and I picked more with my heart, but just because I want it to happen. But I do know, what? And if I'm being honest, I just think that I think that Chubb and Hunt are going to be tough for them to stop right now. So we'll see.
We got to stay ahead. We stay ahead, Jeremy. It's a different story.
Yeah,
we got to stay ahead.
Exactly.
But a little bit more than a touchdown, and then I'll feel better because I don't trust Lamar. And they're going to be going.
There's no doubt about it. He is phenomenal. They are never out of a game. This game is never over. They will. Doesn't matter. 21 down in the second half. I still will feel a little bit.
And let's not be our worst enemy. Our own worst enemy here. Can we please go back to the basics of football and learn about how not to commit those damn penalties. And it is.
Did you notice
we are killing ourselves?
Sorry, I got to throw this one in too. At the game, I'm sure you noticed as soon as someone would jump off sides, they'd run off the field, not even look at the sideline. So then they asked Stefanski about it. Malik McDowell and Tommy Togiai both had offsides, and the second they did it, they just started running off the field. And so they asked Stefanski about it. He said, he confirmed yes, that they had said, if you get an offsides, you're out. So, that obviously didn't help. Hopefully they can figure something out.
No, it didn't.
Here.
So we'll see next week.
All
right. So that is it for us here on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast. We will be back next week dissecting whatever the hell shows up for the Cleveland Browns. So if you like listening to Jeremy and I talk about the brownies. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on Apple Podcasts.
How could you not? How could you not?
I'm telling you.
It's
just
it's the premier.
Faces the winners here.
Look, I'm not saying this because it's us. I think it is. I think it's the best, most intelligent Browns podcast out there. So
I agree. I
listen
mean,
up.
Hey, if we're not going to pump ourselves up, who will?
That's right.
Right. So, and Jeremy, I'll always be here, even if it's just me and you telling each other that all the time.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. We will see you guys next week. Check us out at Orange is Oranger on Instagram and Twitter, and visit us at pressplaypodcast.com. See you later. Go Browns.
Go Browns.